Hello and welcome to the Breaking Ground show on iPropertyRadio with myself, Carol Tallon, the show where we chat to industry experts to get a view on what's happening on the ground and to learn about new trends emerging within the construction industry. This show is brought to you in partnership with Place Engage, a data-driven platform for more successful public consultation and community engagement for your next development project. Today, I'm delighted to be joined by returning guest Joanne White, lecturer in the School of Surveying and Construction Innovation at TU Dublin and founder of Women in Construction Ireland. Joanne, you're very welcome back. Thank you for joining me again today.
Thank you so much, Carol, for having me.
And Joanne, I should say for anybody who's not watching on YouTube and only listening, apologies for any background noise. I have come fresh from the launch of SkillNet MMC Accelerate from the CPAC premises in Dunshaughlin, and I have just landed at the Crown Plaza in Blanchardstown. Thank you so much to the team in the Crown Plaza in Blanchardstown for accommodating me. So we've been given a space to record. It's a little bit echoey, so please, that's the joy of this job, and it's the joy of what's happening in construction at the moment. And it's interesting because I have just left one of your former colleagues, Alan Hoare, who was leading the MMC Accelerate platform. So you might just tell us a little bit about your background and the Women in Construction initiative, of course.
Absolutely. So yeah, like I think as we spoke the last time, my background is a bit mixed. So when I left school, I went into building surveying and DKT, did construction project management over in Heriot Watt in Edinburgh, and then came back to Dublin in the middle of the worst recession, the country's ever seen. Did a bit of property management, project management, ended my industry career as a contractor's QS in Louth, not too far away. So I'm in Monaghan. And now, as you said, I'm a lecturer in the School of Surveying and Construction Innovation. I lecture construction management, real estate and QS. And within the school, we have our own women in construction kind of system and mentoring scheme set up. We have a few events a year, and I kind of try and take them under my wing as much as possible and, provide a little bit of mentorship. So what happened with Women in Construction Ireland then is my thought process was I have these students for 4 or 5 years, and, I get them ready and then I send them into the big bad world and they're on their own. So what Women in Construction Ireland is about is providing support to the companies, not so much the women, but the companies that are hiring them, to ensure that the support is there to provide adequate support to their female staff. So be it construction managers, architects, engineering, apprentices, it's across the board in the construction industry. So it's kind of a one-stop consultancy point of view. We've 3 levels of membership depending on what you need, or if there was a case where the company is absolutely flying with their EDI and they're implementing all the gender specific policies and procedures that we would be recommending. It could be that you have like an event and you need someone to talk about women in construction at it. That's where we could come in and help you organize that sort of thing. So it is like a one-stop shop to help companies help their female staff, if that makes sense.
Well, Joanne, the last time we spoke, and certainly something we've spoken about with other guests over the last number of years, there's such a huge need for diversity in construction. And like today, we're talking about gender diversity, but I truly believe that needs to go right across from ages, multidisciplinary, ethnic backgrounds. We want everybody to feel welcome in construction because, quite frankly, we need everybody in construction.
Yeah,
we
you
need
took the words
that
out of
skill
my mouth.
set.
We have such a skill shortage. We can't be picky and choosy and just keep hiring the straight white male anymore. It has to be more diverse. It has to. We've no choice, or else we're going to suffer as an industry.
We need the talent, we need the creativity, and we need that kind of entrepreneurial edge that everybody who comes into construction tends to have. So do you know what? In the course of this interview, we're not even going to discuss why an initiative is needed for women in construction. The sad reality is we do need it. So we're not even going to kind of debate the merits of it, why it needs to happen. So today I want to jump right into the work that you're going to be doing, because the reality is I do see a change on the ground, but it's not the change I would have liked to see. So I see a huge acknowledgement of the need to increase diversity across construction. I see huge resources being put towards it. I see boxes being ticked all over the place. But I'm not really seeing that translate into action on the ground. I'm not seeing it translate into the promotion of as many women as we'd like to see. And we're not seeing it at senior women being more visible in their roles, whether it's at a industry level or indeed at a national level, because quite frankly, construction is never out of the news now, and I have yet to see a female commentator coming on actually being able to tackle issues from a senior experienced, from a senior role, and that's really lacking. So yes, we've made some really good, solid progress, but at a contractor level, particularly, they're struggling. They're doing all the right things. They're still not getting applications in from female candidates, or they're struggling to retain the ones we get. So, like, what are you going to do differently that you think can change this?
So you've hit a lot of notes there that I would be concentrating on. So getting them in the door is one thing, but retaining them is another thing. So one of the things I would do with our champion supporters is I would sit down with the HR or the people management, and I have a 22-page document that I have created with the EU best practice policies and procedures that are in place for women in industry. And I've taken it and I've molded it to the Irish construction industry. And it is basically going in depth into all of their policies and procedures for their female staff. Are you doing this? And it's not just, are you doing this? Yes or no. It's, are you doing it? Yes. That's brilliant. How often is it updated? Who circulates it? How is it circulated? How often is it circulated? How often is it updated? Is it going from your management right down to the boots on the ground? So following that 22-page, so I'll probably meet the HR or the people management once or twice, go through it in depth. From that, you'll get a range of proposals. And the hope is that if you start implementing them, I wouldn't expect a company to go, right, we're going to go from absolutely no paid maternity to the full 12 months paid maternity. That's unrealistic. But we're starting at the bottom here, realistically, with the construction industry in Ireland, and we're going to work our way up. So it could be that they're going to have, 12 weeks half pay, at a minimum. It could be just that they're building on what they have. So this review of their existing policy and procedures will set in place a list of recommendations, obviously the highest, best ones, and working their way down to the minimum that they can do to provide extra support for their female staff, and in turn retain them so that they can work their way up the ladder, as you said, to get to senior management. So the first thing I do when I've been talking to a few companies is I go onto their website. I have a look. So I put myself in as if I was a graduate or as if I am going for a new job. And I go onto their construction or their website and I see, right, the first thing I go look is, our people or our team, click that button. So far in all of the companies I've spoken to, I think I've only seen maybe 2 females in a leadership role that is not HR or finance. So that tells me that as a female, am I limited if I start joining these companies? Am I limited in my career progression? I'm not saying that a female should be promoted over a male for the sake of it, to tick a box, to get your quota. But I'm saying we should be supporting our females, that they feel like they should be going for these promotions. They should be qualified. It should be possible for them to get as high as they want to within the career. So that's one thing I think is lacking, is getting our females that high, because we're not retaining them in the industry. It's a very difficult industry to work in if you have caring responsibilities, be that children, be it elderly parents, siblings, whatever it is. It's very hard to leave the industry and come back in as well, because it's so fast moving, which is great on one hand, and on the other hand, you miss so much if you take a year out for maternity.
Yeah,
it's a hard balance.
Joanne, I suppose my focus initially was on companies. What can companies do? But actually, are you speaking to the candidates themselves, maybe as to why they're not putting themselves forward? And I'm conscious from our previous conversations that you and I have had openly that actually you've been that soldier. You were on site. You made the decision, actually, this is not sustainable in terms of the life that I want to live. So actually, what are candidates telling you? And what can we learn from what candidates are telling you?
You'd be surprised. So I'm 35. So 15 years ago, I would have been going for jobs. And I can tell you, when I was 20, I was not thinking of pension, maternity pay, benefits, flexi work, etc. I was looking for a job in the construction industry. Yeah, that's it. I'll take it, whatever was going. Now candidates have so many more options. So many more options. Like, I've spoken to the companies and they are fighting tooth and nail to get good candidates into their graduate programs. So they are looking for paid maternity, paid paternity. They're looking for all these extra benefits that they have. Flexi work, remote work, hybrid work. Is there options available? So they're expecting more, and rightly so, because how far the construction industry has come in the last 2 decades.
I'm conscious that we're probably leaning a lot towards the traditional construction side, and obviously this morning I've just walked out of the MMC or the SkillNet MMC Accelerate launch, so I'm buzzing with excitement about offsite and other modern methods of construction. I was really struck by the acknowledgement of the skills gap we have there. And by the way, that runs across all spectrum of seniority, of gender, of the discipline that you're bringing into the industry. But there was definitely a sense that modern methods of construction might lend itself to being a more attractive industry for all people of all ages. I mean, and obviously, I'm drawing on your experience, not just kind of your work background, but also the work you're doing through the college there. When you speak to people coming in all enthusiastic about embarking on a career in the industry, what do they think that looks like? Are they thinking traditional or MMC?
So no, definitely MMC. We're moving towards the MMC. So we're moving away from the muddy boots and the broken backs, lifting blocks and the hard hats and the scaffolding. We're moving away from that. They know that that's not the be all and end all of the construction industry anymore. They know that it's more innovative, it's more exciting, it's more, for a lot of our students, it's going to be a lot more office based with the MMC and technologies than it ever was. You're not going out with your A1 drones anymore out on site. It's all technology based. So they know that coming in, and this is what they're going to expect after 4 or 5 years in college, to go straight into that on site.
Right, but what are they actually bringing to the table then? Are they bringing extra skill sets? So, for example, the students that you see, and I know we're maybe a week or two off the new college year starting, so you don't know who's going to be sitting in front of you this year. And I know we've spoken before about a much more positive or not gender balance, but certainly moving towards that. But actually, people coming in, do they still tend to be new school leavers? Or are you getting many people maybe a couple of years after leaving school, maybe choosing construction as a career? And do you get many mature students, even though I think mature students now start very young?
Yeah, I was actually looking up line that mature students is 23, and I said 23, that's children. We would have mostly school leavers. And our full-time course is mostly school leavers. We do have part-time courses, so they are 1 day a week and 1 evening a week, and they tend to be more mature students or people who, like myself, would have been in the industry but maybe not qualified in the actual role that they were doing. So I would have had a building surveying and project management background, started working as a QS, had no QS qualifications. So went back and done my part-time master's in QS while I was working full-time. So we would have a lot of that. We have our part-time quantity surveying and our part-time construction management, as most colleges throughout the country do. And you tend to find with the part-timers, the vast majority of them are mature students coming back. We have 1 or 2 maybe leaving cert students who are lucky enough to get into a job that is happy for them to spend 1 day in college, but mostly coming back, they would be mature students coming back.
Okay, and I suppose one of the things that I'm drawing from reports that were done over about the last 18 months showed that, we in the industry, we knew there was a reputation problem with construction. We knew that construction would have to rebrand itself, would have to remake its image to be attractive to the next generation coming in. And I think digital technologies and MMC have really played a huge part in that. But the reality is the business of construction has also changed. The operational side has changed. So actually, we do need people who are trained in other areas. So whether it's digital technology or whether it's UX design or any other range of financial control, financial management, we do need them to actually consider and choose a career in construction. And we saw that actually it wasn't the students or the would-be students themselves, but actually perhaps it was their parents for whom the crash was still very
in their mind.
Well, it was front and center, and maybe they would have not encouraged their young adult children into a career in construction.
Absolutely.
Has that changed?
In part. So speaking to parents and myself being a parent and speaking to the students, so there's a part of they know that it's not the muddy rainy, stuck outside job anymore, but they do know that it's a site-based, if say if construction management is site-based. But there's an element of the parents being like, there's still an element that, oh, it's just the construction industry. It's, I want my son or daughter to be a doctor or a lawyer or an accountant or whatever it is. And I'm trying to explain is they'll probably earn more in the construction industry than they ever will in, these other jobs. Like, it's absolutely booming. But one of the main reasons that I set up Women in Construction Ireland, and I had to have a big in-depth talk with myself, is I have a 4-year-old daughter. And when I had her, I had to leave the industry because it wasn't, as we mentioned before, it just wasn't feasible for me to stay in the industry with small children, where I am in the country, etc. And when she got a bit older, I was like, oh, I wonder what she's going to be when she grows up. And I said to myself, Jesus, what if she comes to me in 18 years and says, I want to be a plumber or an electrician or a site manager or a block layer or an architect, anything in the industry. And I had to think, would I be happy with her entering the industry? And the honest answer is, the way it is now as a parent, that's all, I don't think I would. So that's where Women in Construction Ireland has come from. I want to try and make it a better place for the likes of her coming up. She's probably going to be a hairdresser at the end of all this, or an accountant, or, taxi driver. It doesn't really matter. But if she wants to enter the industry, I want to try and make it as good a place for a woman to work as possible.
Yeah, and actually, I think you touched on something really important there. And equality isn't necessarily striving for 50-50
No,
in every
absolutely
role.
not.
I think it is about equality of access. So it's the choice, it's the equality to be able to choose to go into any role. And I think that is what we all want for our
And my
children
daughter's
at some
probably
level.
going to be, she's probably going to have a head start if she did want to go into construction because she has me. What about the girls coming up through schools whose parents aren't in the construction industry or don't have the facts and figures right there? It's scary, like how little there are females coming into the industry who don't have a parent. That is like 90% of their interest comes from their parents.
Yeah.
So if you don't have a parent or a direct family member in the industry, chances are you're not going to know about it. You're not going to hear the good things about it. So my daughter's at an advantage that she will hear all of the good things from me. But if, Mary down the road, whose parents are farmers, for talk's sake, she won't know any different. All she'll be hearing is the bad things about the industry, how it's male centered, how it's stereotypical, etc. So it's about giving them the opportunities to make the choices. And it's not in any way, shape or form. I think 50-50 in the construction industry will never happen. I don't think it needs to happen. That's like saying nursing has to be 50-50. Again, it's not realistic. It's not going to happen, certainly not in our lifetime. But I think it's about giving them the option that if they want to, they can.
Yeah, equality of choice. I think that's a really strong point. In terms of the work that you're going to be doing, because I know that your official launch is coming up this month, which we're very excited about. I think that this is a long overdue initiative for Ireland. So congratulations and best of luck. And we're absolutely on hand to support you in any way that we can. But in terms of, not even your expectations, but what are your hopes for your first year in business? Like, what to you will mean that you've started on the path to success? What would success look like for year one for you?
So when I started this in April, I started kind of saying things around May, June, July. I started approaching companies, and all of the companies I spoke to, every single last one was like, this is a brilliant idea, well overdue. It's a brilliant initiative. Well done, you're great. And then I was like, that's great. Can we organize a call to see how we can work together? Oh no, maybe next year. Or, it's just not in our time frame right now. And I'm like, but if it's that important, surely you can give me half an hour of your time to talk about the changes that can be made. Now, there have been certain companies that have come absolutely bells and whistles, and they're the ones approaching me and we're like, look, we know we can do better. We're trying, but we're obviously missing something. Please help us. And that is all I wanted. I wanted the companies to realize that there's more that they can do. So that is the big thing. So I can't wait just to get stuck in with them now and get going.
Okay, can you give us any insight into some of the things you're doing? Because again, I work with contractors and the vast majority of them really are on board in theory.
Yeah.
Some of them are better at doing and executing than others. But honestly, even the people who are doing, they're not very happy with the results. They're not seeing it turn around. So something is being lost in translation. And in some ways you wonder, okay, is it that it feels a bit forced, that it feels like tokenism? And then if we don't drive it, will it not happen at all?
Yeah.
So like the companies you're talking to, are they people who would have genuinely tried to initiate something and just not seen the results they wanted?
Absolutely. So we have signed on Walls as our first champion. So I've been dealing with Debbie in Walls, Debbie Tracy in Walls, she's head of HR. And Debbie would be absolutely pro female, pro diversity, pro everything. She's very, getting Walls up to where it should be, but they just aren't seeing the numbers of female candidates that they would like. So what we're doing with Walls is, apart from our networking events and our webinars and, all of those events, which are vitally important for our staff, Walls specifically are going to have me sitting down with them, going through all their policies and procedures, coming back with their list of recommendations, coming back and sitting down with Debbie and saying, look, what about putting in this, 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 and this for the next 12 months? Then we're going to have an on-site workshop with Walls. So we're going to be at one of their sites. We're going to talk about unconscious bias, and this is going to be our stand for saying, look, we've gone through all our policies and procedures. This is what we're going to do. This is what Walls hope to implement in the next 12 months, 24 months, whatever it is. So it's kind of like a rolling procedure then.
And you,
sorry, go
oh,
ahead.
no, you go ahead.
No, and then we're going to have like their jobs up on the website. So the theory is that if a woman is looking for a job and they go on Walls' website, and they mightn't necessarily see anything about women, and they go on the LinkedIn, they mightn't necessarily see anything about women, they go on the Women in Construction Ireland website, and there you see Walls. Walls are a champion of Women in Construction Ireland and their jobs, and a blurb about the different jobs that are available. And in theory, the candidate thinks, right, they're putting effort into their women, they're trying, they're doing something to try and make the company better for women. So in theory, that should increase the amount of females applying for these jobs.
And I think it's great that your platform is offering that. But are you then also saying to, and I don't want to kind of make it specific about Walls, because actually they're probably leading the charge, the fact that they've actually come out and done this. But for others that you're speaking to, do you actually say to them, listen, it's great, use our platform, that's what we wanted to do, but actually you need to show you need to tell the story of your own brands and how you view women and how you embrace diversity across a whole range of different factors within your company. So whether it's that through profiling people on your website, showcasing them on LinkedIn pages, whatever it is, are companies doing enough there? Is some of this within their control?
Oh, absolutely. Like I was talking to a company yesterday, and I had done my bit of research before I got on with them. And I couldn't find much, and I got onto the call, and they were like, yeah, well, we have this, 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 and this. And I says, well, I'm after looking for the last hour online, and I found none of that. If I was a candidate, I would not know any of those things existed. So if, a bit of free advice, start screaming that from the rooftops, put that on LinkedIn, put that on your website. If I can't see it, I don't know it's there.
Yeah,
So
actually,
well within their control.
That touches on something really key. Across Property District, we do a lot in the employer branding space, which is massively important, because people think PR is just about, putting your projects out there or project wins out in the news. And it's not at all. So much of PR today in the current marketplace is around making yourself attractive for candidates, whether it's junior level, mid-level career, or indeed senior level, that you might want to come over from another industry for the expertise that they bring. And actually, what's really interesting is that I've really noticed a consistent pattern. And sometimes there are companies who are very good at talking about what they're going to do. And they waste a lot of digital space talking about what they're going to do, what their plans are, and they don't necessarily execute a lot on the ground. And then I meet other companies, and they're doing amazing work, but you'd never know it if you didn't hear it. And in fact, the only way you might see it is through photographs that one of their team members put up about an event that happened. And actually, I found it across, particularly in the employer branding space, that usually it's the companies who are doing it really well for staff, they're doing it really well internally, are very poor at putting it out externally.
Yeah. So as I say, if you're a candidate going for a job, you don't know that all these things are in place, maybe until you get to an interview stage, but you mightn't even apply for it. Like, there's that many jobs in the industry.
Exactly.
The candidates can afford to be choosy these days in what they're even applying for. So you need to give them all the information off the bat. So that's where your website, LinkedIn, etc. comes in. You have to have that up to date and give it to them between the two eyes, because as I say, probably 10 different choices for jobs these days.
Well, it's as simple as show, don't tell. And honestly, I think there's still a bit of a hangover from the crash where construction companies just don't know if it's acceptable to celebrate what they do well.
Yeah.
They're still very modest about their wins. They don't mind sharing it in a little industry setting, but they don't want it going out too publicly. And actually, that's what needs to change. I think there was a real loss of pride in the profession. And
Yeah.
it's something that we'd like to see elevated. And the reality is, if you're doing something well,
Yeah.
talk about it, because actually that encourages your competition to do better as
Yeah.
well. It makes you more attractive for potential candidates. I'm conscious of time, Joanne, but there is something I want to talk to you about because you touched on it there, and I'm not sure I know what it looks like in the workplace. So you talked about helping your clients, the employers, maybe recognize where there might be unconscious bias. Where does
Absolutely.
that show up in the workplace?
So it can be office or site-based. I obviously find it more on site-based because you're dealing with a different demographic. You're dealing with the vast majority of men of an maybe older generation than the office-based. So just as an example, and it's a really obvious example, but I was talking to an apprentice, a female apprentice there recently. She is second year. I can't remember now if she's an electrician or plumber. I think it's an electrician. And she was saying that she had left a job and she loved the job and it was going great. But every single evening, she was the one asked to sweep out the yard. Every single evening, even though there was two other apprentices of the same level there. And I says, when you raised it, what happened? She said, when I raised it, he really took umbrage. He really did not like the fact that I had raised it as an issue, and he made a massive deal out of it. And that man, and it was a man, probably never thought anything of it. That's the unconscious bit. I'm sure he didn't sit down every morning and go, right, I'm going to ask Mary to brush the floor this evening because she's a woman and she should be brushing the floor. That was probably just a knee-jerk reaction in the back of his head. Here, Mary, you take the brush.
Yeah, that's really
There's that
interesting
side
when
of it.
there's two male apprentices as well. So it's
Exactly.
not a position thing, because
So
I mean
it's
everybody
dealing,
has to earn their stripes.
dealing with the person who is having the unconscious bias, but
Yeah,
also dealing with the two apprentices beside Mary.
yeah,
So I'm not expecting an 18 or 19-year-old to start World War III in the middle of a site, but we'll call them Pat and Paul. Pat could have easily said, "Oh, sure, Mary done it yesterday. I'll do it today. Sure, we'll all
yeah,
take turns."
yeah.
And it's about controlling the narrative that you're in and making it a better place for that female apprentice. And that's just a really obvious example of it.
And actually that sounds like possibly an unusual situation that the apprentice did feel she could raise it, but then
Yeah.
when she raised it, it wasn't well received.
Yeah, and you'd be surprised now, all the young apprentices, they're fairly, they're on the ball. I don't think those I've met now would be afraid they know what they're entitled to,
Yeah,
and they know their
good.
worth, which is great. And they know that apprentices are, hen's teeth.
Yeah.
So, and they're all very good at their jobs, the ones I've met. So they know that they can get another job. So they don't have to take what
Yeah.
female apprentices 10, 15, 20 years ago would have had to take.
Well, do you know, maybe that's what cultural change looks like.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what the start of it looks like. Raising it when you're being asked to sweep the floors at an unfair ratio than the male apprentices around you. So actually, sometimes it's difficult to recognize when change starts to happen. Maybe that's what it looks like. Joanne, I'm conscious that your launch is just around the corner. We're so excited. You must be excited too. What are your immediate plans? Like I know we've kind of talked about your expectations and your hopes for the year ahead, but can you tell us any of the events that you have already planned, or any of the initiatives that you have already planned for the end of 2024?
We have the launch now, 26th of September, Peggy's on the Green. I regret booking a small venue because we've had such good feedback for it. But
save my space, please.
Oh, you front and center. I'll have a little throne for you in the front.
no throne, just space.
We have a great range of people coming, and we have people from like 17, 18-year-old graduates right up to, people nearing the end of their career. And majority female, and again, my poor dad's probably going to be the only male in the room. Again, he's a QS, but he's kind of getting used to it at this stage. But a great range of across the career, and like we have architects, construction management, QSs, real estate, engineers, and apprentices. So we have a great range of females coming, and I just think it's going to be a great networking opportunity, and it's great to meet other people who are so invested in women in our industry. Everybody who's coming, we're all there for the same reason. We're all there to try and make the industry a little better for ourselves and for our friends and family. So yeah, I can't wait. It's Pegged in the Green, 26th of September. Can't wait.
Well, we're very excited too. And I suppose just one question I want to ask, just because I know there are quite different perspectives on this, but how important is it that there are men in the room? How important is it at these events that actually we have, because the reality is our decision makers
Yes.
within construction are still men. How
Our,
important is it that they're
the
visible?
people that run the construction industry in Ireland tend to be,
Yeah.
you know, the straight white man. That is just a fact of where we are. We still are in Ireland. So it's so important that this is not just a token representative. You're female, the same, International Women's Day, where your one female engineer gets put up on Facebook or, LinkedIn, and how great the company is. It's not about that. It's so important that the decision makers get involved. So again, like I've heard, this is such a good initiative. It's so important that they stand behind that now.
Yeah.
So it's not just, again, yes, it is an absolute great networking opportunity for everybody, but it's important for, as you say, the decision makers to see the change that we want to be made, and that we're not going to sit back and just let it slide. We're going to really shout for change.
Good. And tell me, final piece of advice, say for anybody listening in, so irrespective of whether they're across traditional construction or offsite or other modern methods of construction, but they're really trying to be more embracing of women, whether it's either attracting them or retaining them. Is there any kind of key piece of advice or any key bit of guidance that you can give?
I suppose if you are trying, just keep trying. Don't give up. Even if you're not seeing changes straight away, keep trying. So you think of this small amount of numbers of women that are coming in an industry, and they have hundreds of opportunities. This might not be your year. Next year, if you keep plugging away for the next 12 months, next year you might see 2 or 3 graduates coming in. The following year, you might have somebody going up to senior leadership. These aren't going to be overnight changes. You have to keep plugging away at this.
And one thing I'm going to add to that, because there was something that came up in our previous interview, and I think it's something that maybe that isn't talked about enough, and that is the importance of giving feedback to women, because we know men are more comfortable giving critical feedback to men, whether it's on or off site. So actually, that might seem like a tough love approach. The very opposite. It's how they grow. So, so actually, one of the things that I would add to that is that actually male leaders need to be more comfortable giving constructive criticism and feedback where appropriate to female employees, because that's how they learn, and not to do it might feel safer for you.
It's nearly like they're afraid to say the wrong thing. And what I would say to that is, if you're trying your hardest, if you're making an effort to say it in the right way, then say it. It's better having it said than not said.
But it's also about valuing that feedback, because actually that feedback, we've all had to hear feedback in our careers. We don't always appreciate it in the moment, but if you're smart enough, you'll take it on board and you'll use it for growth. And and so actually, by not giving that critical feedback, you're actually depriving somebody of an opportunity to grow. And that could be one of the areas of unconscious bias, where in thinking it's a kindness, it's not. You're actually depriving that person.
Because it's like a trickle event. If that person can't grow, they're not going to move up the career ladder. You're not going to have your senior leadership female. So it is it's a trickle event.
Yeah, look, and one of the things that we didn't touch on today, which I'm very grateful for, is the need for women, the confidence training for women. I'm glad we didn't touch on it today, because it's something that I think is a little bit of yes, it's important that we increase people's confidence.
Can be outdated. Yeah, so when you talk about confidence and imposter syndrome, some of what we hear can be outdated. So I touch on it, but I kind of flip it. So I'm saying imposter syndrome, it's not that I'm an imposter in the construction industry. It's that the construction industry is treating me like an imposter.
Yeah.
So it's about kind of turning it on its head.
I think that's a really good way to position it, because I know we've discussed it before, but the reality is all of the data, the academic data, shows us that women shrink through failure and men grow through it. And so that part maybe is linked to confidence, but actually the way to increase people's confidence is not to send them on 2-hour course once a year. It is to pay them well. It is to
Have to
give
buy them
constructive
lunch
feedback.
every
Yeah.
March. Do you know, no, it's to put these extra policies and procedures in place and stand by them.
Yeah.
So as I say, if you don't see results in 1 year, don't just throw it out the window. Don't throw all your good work out.
Yeah. Really good advice. Joanne, I'm so excited about the launch of Women in Construction. I know it has been said many times, but it is an overdue initiative. But the only thing is I am somewhat more hopeful that I think the timing is good. And I think you've touched on it there. The next generation coming in, they're not going to tolerate maybe what was tolerated before. And that's a positive thing as long as we can channel that into positive change that can actually be used for the benefit of everybody. So really excited. Very best of luck to you.
Thank you so
on
much.
the 26th at Peggy's on the Green. We look forward to helping you celebrate. And we look forward then to seeing the work that you do. And the next time we talk to you on air, we'll be able to maybe talk about some of the impact that your initiative had. And I'm really excited about that. So very best of luck to you.
Thank you so much, Carol.
No, my pleasure. That was Joanne White, lecturer in the School of Surveying and Construction Innovation at TU Dublin and founder of Women in Construction Ireland. My thanks to show producer Katie Tallon and to the production team at Hear Me Roar Media. Also thanks to Place Engage for making these conversations possible. And finally, thank you indeed for tuning in. We'll catch you on the next episode of Breaking Ground. In the meantime, please be sure to check out all of the other Irish and international real estate or construction shows here on iPropertyRadio.com.